Hi, it's been a while. My apologies for not keeping up with a regular upload schedule. I've just started off and I'm already not being consistent, but anyway, I'm here. You're back. Ni harakati za kutafuta bill payment. You don't have time to do as much traveling as you get to do, but I got a chance to do that. I got a chance to do that today. We are in Tharaka County. Do you know where Tharaka County is? I didn't, but here we are. We're about to embark on a short hill climb. Get some good footage. But anyway, that is neither here nor there. So today's video, I've mentioned this before. Have I? No, I don't think so. I think I should have mentioned this before. In my YouTube channel, I'm trying to provide value to you. It's not just telling you, here I am, here I am, here I am. Yeah, it's not going to be one of those welcome to my channel kind of channels. What I want to talk to you about today is what makes a great photographer. I am a photographer by profession. I started learning how to be a photographer maybe 2 years ago, and I've picked a thing or two on what I think makes a great photographer, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, alongside me showing you how beautiful Tharaka County actually is. So sit back and enjoy.
Now say we're superstar. That is my destiny. On our way to ata.
If you are looking to get into photography, there is so much you would need to learn for you to quantify yourself as a place is so rocky. To quantify yourself as a good photographer. And if you're starting to learn this, you are bombarded with so much information that you start feeling like this is not possible. It's not possible to learn all this, especially if you're trying to do so on your own. If you're going to a class, it's easier because maybe they have programs that are going to enable you to quickly understand what you need to learn. But from my experiences, if you break down photography as a profession, there are 4 things you would need to master, and we're going to be talking about those.
Superstar. Kokenga nondo nemo star. When that are you? Ndwendie ovo. Nani mo star. Na say we superstar.
So number 1, camera techniques. This is what I mean by camera techniques. Camera techniques is understanding how a camera works and how to use it. This is starting off with basically the exposure triangle, ISO, aperture, shutter speed, mastering those. The different techniques you can do in camera. I want you to understand, in camera techniques, these are not, well, if you're doing special effects, if you're doing long exposure, if you're doing, it doesn't matter, whatever you're doing it in camera. Mastering that is very important, because when you pair that with post-production, you're able to have broken down the process of learning it. You'll be able to understand the principles, some of the principles that you're going to use within post-production. So in camera techniques, that is very important. This is being able to I would say, being able to unconsciously adjust settings. You don't even have to think about it. If a scene is too overexposed, you know, depending on what goal I'm trying to achieve, I would either tighten the aperture or reduce the ISO or increase the shutter speed, depending on what you're trying to achieve. yeah, I think that's all I can say about in-camera techniques. And let's get back to this climb, Steve.
All right.
Singing with Snoop Monambo, Kelly to and the jump.
Nienda my rush, not to me CB, not Cinderella shoes, and I think I want some makeup. Buy me a beach house and a new bikini.
Hey, this has been an arduous climb.
You have no idea, you viewers.
So what you want to do now is take up the drone. This is not the best environment to do it. It's a little brushy. That's the word choice I've been given by, that's my younger brother. So we want to show you this beautiful landscape. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. We don't have like flat ground to do it, so we are gonna take off from Steve's arms. Hope I don't chop off his fingers.
What?
I hope I don't chop off your fingers.
That will be optimal.
I didn't put an ND filter. The shot is a little overexposed, and this is one of the things I'm talking about. You need to know what you need to do. So, because I'm using a drone, what I need to do is put an ND filter on top of it, slap on a PL mount on a PL filter on that thing, so we will have like better footage. I'm using some ND filters from Neewe. These guys are called Neewe. I think they brand equipment. I have a lot of their stuff. I like them. They have relatively good quality, very, very good prices. Yeah. So what I'm using is their ND filter set. I have ND8 and ND16. I'm in Africa. It's bright. and some, they also have a PL, I think. Yeah. So I'm gonna slap on the ND filter, get better. I don't have to be overexposed. So I've mounted the filter, taking off again. Hold it up.
Take off.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity, so I could see how you react, how you react to me. So much differently.
We have around 4 minutes of footage. I think that will be enough. I'm not really good at this yet, so I'm gonna bring it back home. Yeah.
Okay.
And successful. I think now it's time to go back down. Still have the last two things I need to talk to you about. Is it 2 or 3? Yeah. Let's get back and finish our conversation. It's not easy getting down this hill we've gotten ourselves on top. People might fall.
We might die.
We might die.
That's gonna be epic footage, eh?
I don't know about that, but yeah. See you at the bottom of the hill.
Or in the hospital.
It's not a hospital. Way to the bottom, few scratches and scrapes.
The cover of that clothes.
Yeah. You've seen the importance of having to understand in-camera techniques. This is the basic. It doesn't matter what camera you're using. It's not about settings. This is just understanding how to expose a frame. It applies to photos, it applies to videos. So mastering in camera techniques is very important. This is, I think that's a spider. Yeah, so mastering in camera techniques is very important. The second thing that you need to understand is post-production. Post-production is when you've gotten your footage and now you want to add some pizzazz or whatever. You just want to present it to your audience. This is where you put in your more of your artistic flair, which could be color grading, could be whatever, cropping, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about the software, doesn't matter about whatever. There's so many tools you can use in your post-production. If it's photograph, there's Lightroom, there's Photoshop. There are so many options out there. For example, for my post-production, when I'm doing photographs, I use Lightroom. Mostly exclusively use Lightroom. I initially started learning Photoshop, but then I realized whenever you import a photo into Photoshop, first thing that comes up is Camera Raw, right? And if you look at it, Camera Raw is very similar to Lightroom, right? So when I got there, I was getting good at Camera Raw when I'm importing to Photoshop, but I wasn't very comfortable within the Photoshop environment. But then I moved to Lightroom, and that's where most of my photography, my photographs are processed. Yeah. If I need to do more masking, etc., I would use Photoshop. But with CC 2018, that stopped being an issue. They added masking. We have luminosity mask and color mask, and that just gives you more Photoshop-like tools you can use to do your photography post-production. So that's it for post-production. We'll move on to the next thing, which is the eye. Yeah.
Now say we're superstar. That is my destiny. On our weta ata nongi nani newabi living la vida loca. Me nine diamonds, J nature silver, Nayombe tenni ruby. Eye of the tiger is what I wear on Sunday. Ngali Neewe MW.
We've made an impromptu stop. We've come upon this valley. There's a river down below. So we are thinking of taking up the drone, get a few shots of that, then head back home. We've already crossed from Tharaka Nithi County. We are now in Embu County, just almost at the edge of Embu County. It's a little greener than Tharaka Nithi, to be sure, but it's all beautiful. Our country is one beautiful country. So without further ado, let's get this thing up.
Superstar, kokenga nondo nemo star. When that are you? Ndwendie ovo nani musta. Na sheiwe superstar. We got the bus kana Mr. Bash. Kwa nani na bash. Josh na kina Tanya. Mocha na kina Dash. Twina drink cigars na twina rhymes. Rhymes yabo basta rhyme. Nina gifts ya after bash. Champagne na to my rush. No cut the bus kana Mr. Bash. Superstar na Nina Bash. Nina Bash ya kima stars. Rastas na after puff. Puffing on my cigars. Make it like in a dash. Na kina mat na kina mash. May songa ke manga go dance como nenga besa no ne superstar na shegwe superstar
Na siwe superstar. Na siwe superstar.
So it's the next day. I wasn't able to finish our conversation yesterday. Got a little late. Gonna finish. I think I had two more things to talk about. I hadn't spoken about what I call the fundamentals of photography and the eye, whatever, like your voice as a photographer. Those are the last two things I'm going to talk about. This lovely waterfall is somewhere near my home or house. Yeah. Anyway, to the matter at hand. I think I'll focus first on the fundamentals of photography. These are what you commonly hear as the rules of photography. These are concerning composition, choosing the lights, all those that sort of stuff. This is very subjective, but it's something you can perfect over time. But it's also a segment. It is one of the core elements of the 4 things I was discussing about, because without composition you won't be able to direct the viewer to actually what you want to show them. A basic example of this is something like the rule of thirds. There are other composition layouts that are out there, but the most common one is the rule of thirds. You split the frame into 9 squares, then you know where to place the subject. You look this up. I'm not going to take you through that. But once you've mastered these fundamentals, composition, lighting, choosing the light, and these are away from the in-camera techniques. I am having a tough time concentrating because of the noise from the waterfall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move us to a different location so that I go over the last element and brush over the fundamentals of photography. Also sort my thoughts kidogo. I found a good spot. I think it's quiet enough. There's a small, would say, man-made trees have been grown by someone. Kizungu mingi. The third core element about photography as a craft is composition. Being able to master composition of shots will be integral in your journey as a photographer. You need to be able to see where the frame is. You need to know what elements to put into the frame, what subjects are distracting the viewer's eye, and this holds true for any type of photography, whether it's wedding photography, street photography, landscape photography. It's your choice as a photographer what is going to be in the frame. So mastering that is very important. And I don't know if you've put 2 and 2 together, but the composition of shots also translates into post-production and in-camera techniques, right? For example, if it's metering is actually something that not many people talk about, but metering will be influenced by the composition. For example, if your subject is in the shade and you want to bring out the subject, you'd perhaps change the metering of your camera to spot metering so that you're able to expose for the shaded area. That applies if the subject was in a shaded area and there's an area that is overexposed, so and you would really want to bring out the subject that is underexposed. On to my last point. You think they won't notice the lack of continuity? Kuja tumalize video. The last and fourth element you'll need to master as you train yourself to be a photographer is what people would refer to as the eye or your vision as a photographer. Others would call it talent, regardless of what you'll call it. I think this is something that can't be taught. If you don't have the eye to see where the photograph is, that can't be taught. But over time you can practice that. It's separate from composition. In that composition you can condition yourself to be a good composer. Learning your foreground elements, your background elements, your mid-ground elements. But when it comes to your voice, your vision as a photographer, that is something you can't learn, and this is something you'll cultivate over time. So that's it for this video. Time to pack up, go home, and stitch the video together. I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two today. Just to recap, we were going through what I consider the fundamentals of photography. If you're just beginning photography, don't be intimidated by how much you are supposed to learn. If you break it down into the four elements, as I've told you, you will have an easier time learning. I don't think you should go to class. It's not necessary. There's too much information available, and you can invest that money in gear. So to recap, we have in-camera techniques, post-production, fundamentals of photography or the rules, and lastly we have the eye or your vision. If you master those, you will have a very easy time growing as a photographer. See you next time. Subscribe, like, and share the video. Leave a comment if you need anything clarified.